Hi everybody, welcome to GTCoding. This is a complete guide on creating a beautiful responsive website using Figma. This is how the website looks. This is the desktop version. This is the tablet version. And this is the smartphone version. So let's get started. Now we're going to use Figma to design this website. So you can just Google Figma and you'll find this website figma.com. So let's go to this website. And the first thing you have to do is create a free account. So click on sign up and create a free account. And then you can download the Figma desktop app. So if you scroll down, here you can see this link downloads. So if I click on that, here we have the option of downloading Figma. So you can download it for Mac or Windows. And once you install Figma, you can just sign into your account. Now this is the Figma app. Now you can just click on this plus icon and click on design file, and you can create a new file. Now in this video, we will start with choosing the colors for our website and also creating the components. So we need to create components for the heading and also these blog posts over here. So let's get started. Right here, I'm in the Figma application and I just created a new file. So you can just click on this plus icon and create a new file, and you can just rename the file over here. Alright, let's start by choosing the colors for our website. So let's create a frame for that. Let's click on this button and let's click somewhere over here, and let's set the width and the height to, let's set it to iMac, and I'll just change the name of the frame to colors. Right now, first of all, let's add a heading. So let's type colors. And now I'll just change the font size and the font. And we're going to use two fonts in our website. So first of all, you need to download those fonts to your system. So for that, you can just go to fonts.google.com and you can just search for the fonts over here. I'll just search for Inter. And here we have the font. So you can just select this font and just click on download family. And then just go ahead and install the font to your system. And in the same way, you also need to download this font right here called Allegria. So just click on this font and click on download family and install the fonts. And once you're done with that, you can go back to the Figma file. So let's go over here to fonts and let's change the font weight to bold. And let's change the font size. Let's set it to 50. Right now for the colors, let's create a rectangle. So let's click on rectangle and let's create a rectangle. Let's set the width and the height to 200 into 150. And let me just duplicate this. And I'll just duplicate it down here. Right now for the first color, let's select this rectangle and let's add the color code over here. So the first color is going to be black color. And then for the second color, let's select this rectangle and let's add this hex value 181E1E. And then let's select the third rectangle. And for this one, let's add a hex value of E63946. And then for the fourth color, let's add a hex value of FF5864. And then for the fifth color, let's add a hex value of FFCA28. And then lastly, we have a white color. So we can just add FFF. Now let's also add a box shadow. So here I'll just click on plus over here in the effects. And let's make some changes over here. Alright, that's basically it with the colors. Now the next thing we will do is we'll create the components. So let's create one more frame for that. I'll just duplicate this. So you can just press Option or Alt and drag it over here. And I'll just change the name to components. And I'll also change the heading to components. And let's just delete all these colors. Now most of the background color in our website is dark. So if we go back to our design, here we can see all these sections have a dark background color. So for that, let's go ahead and add a dark background color to our frame. So let's select this frame and let's go over here to fill and let's choose a dark color. And I'll also change the color of this text. So let's change this to white. Right now let's go ahead and start creating the components. Let's start with the heading component. So let's click on text and let's click over here. And here I'll just type heading. And let's go to our design tab and let's set the font family to Inter. Let's set the font weight to black. And let's set the font size to 40 pixels. Right, this is the heading. Now we also need to have an underline for this heading. So let's select this rectangle and let's create an underline. So I'll just set the height to 8 pixels. Or let's try 4 pixels and let's set the width to 80 pixels. And let's bring it over here. And let's also change the color. So let's click on fill and let's choose a red color. So I'll just select this one right here. Right now the next thing we will do is we will set a fixed width for this heading. So let's select this heading and let's scroll down over here and let's select this option right here called auto height. So now if we add some more text over here, we can see that it goes to the next line. Right now let's select the text and the rectangle and let's make it an auto layout. So you can just press Shift A or you can just right click over here and click on add auto layout. Now let's go inside this frame and let's select the rectangle and let's see whether we have a fixed width. So here we can see we have a fixed width and height. Right now let's make this frame a component. So let's click on this and let's click on this button right here called create component. And let's name this heading. So let's tap heading over here. Right now let's try adding this component over here and let's see how it works. So let's go to assets. And here we can see inside components we have this heading. So let's drag it down here. And here we have the heading. Now if we just change this heading, so just tap, this is the heading. And here we can see we have a fixed width. Now let's increase the width. So let's select this component and let's increase the width. And we can see that we have increased the width, but the text does not have the correct width. So for that, let's go back to our component and let's select this text. And here instead of fixed, I'll just set it to fill container. And now let's increase the width a little bit. Alright, now here we can see we have this heading and let's increase the width a little bit. So let's increase the width and here we can see that the heading text also has the correct width. So now this heading is working alright. Alright, now let's create a variant for the mobile version. So let's select this component and here we can see that we have this button called add variant. Or you can also go over here to this properties and just click on this plus icon and click on variant. So let's click on add variant and here we can see we have a new variant of this component. Now this will be for the mobile version. So let's select this text and let's set the font size to 24 pixels and we'll also change the width of this rectangle. So let's select the rectangle and let's set the width to, let's try 60 pixels or let's try 50 pixels and I think that looks alright. And now we need to name the properties of these variants. So let's select this one right here and here inside current variant, let's change the property name to platform and let's change the default to desktop. And now let's select this variant for the mobile version and let's change the platform to smartphone. Now let's add two more variants with different background colors for this rectangle. So let's select this one right here and let's click on plus and let's change the background color. So let's change this to, let's select this color right here. And in the same way, let's go ahead and select this one right here and click on plus. And here also we will change the background color. So let's select this and let's click on fill and let's choose this color right here. Right now we need to give different values to these properties. So let's select the third one and here in the platform let's type desktop light. So this variant will be used for a slightly light background And let's select this one right here, and here we'll just type smartphone light. Right, now let's test it out. So let's go over here to assets, and let's drag this heading component over here, and let's see whether it works all right. So let's change the text. So let's type this is heading, and everything is working all right. Let's change the width, and the width is also working all right. Let's change the variant. So let's go over here to platform, and let's change this to smartphone. And now we can see we have the heading of the smartphone version. So if I decrease the width, it also works all right. Now let's select desktop light. So let's click over here and let's select desktop light, and we have the different background color. And then lastly, let's select smartphone light, and we have this heading right here. So that's basically it with the heading component. So let's delete this. Right, now let's create the component for the blog post card. For the blog post, we need to have a thumbnail image, then we need to have a heading, and then we also need to display the tag of the post. So first of all, let's create a rectangle, and let's set the border radius to 10 pixels. Now you can go ahead and add any image over here. So you can just click on this fill color over here, and just click on solid and select image, and here you can choose your image from your system. I'll just use a random image from a plugin called Unsplash. Now here I'll just right click and go to plugins, and let's select Unsplash, and here I'll just type music, and let's select one of these images from here. I'll just select this one right here. Right, this is the thumbnail of our post. Now let's add the heading. So let's click on text, and let's add the heading over here. So I'll just type this is the heading of the post. Now for the heading, I'll just select this font called Allegria. So I'll just type Allegria, and let's set it to bold, and let's set the font size to 18 pixels. I think we can decrease the size of this thumbnail. Right, now let's select these two elements, and let's add an auto layout. So let's press Shift A, and now this is an auto layout, and I'll just select left aligned, and I'll just remove the gap from here. So I'll just drag it over here. I'll just set it to 0. Right, so this is the post and the heading. Now for the heading, we need to have some padding. So I'll just select this heading, and here I'll just add another auto layout. So I'll just press Shift A, and I will set the padding to 24 pixels. So let's go over here. So this is the vertical padding, this is the horizontal padding. So here I'll just type 24. And now we need to set the width of this heading to match the width of the component. So I'll just select this, and here I'll just set it to fill container. And I'll also select this text, and I'll just set it to auto height. And even for this text, I'll just set this to fill container. And I think we can increase the horizontal padding a little bit. So let's set it to, let's try 16 pixels. And I think that looks all right. And now we need to add a background color to this whole component. So let's select this frame, and let's click plus over here in fill. And we also need to have rounded corners. So here I'll just set the corner radius to 10 pixels. And we also need to change the color of this heading. So let's select that, and let's change the color to black. Right, now the last thing we need to do is add the tag for the post. So let's create a text element, and for this I just add a tag of music, and let's just change the font size, and let's set it to 13 pixels. And let's add an auto layout. So let's press Shift A, and I'll just decrease the padding. So I'll just press Alt or Option and drag it down here to 0. And let's add a background color. So let's go over here to fill, and let's click on plus, and we will add a corner radius. So here I'll just type 10, and we also change the color of the text. So let's select the text, and let's change the color to black. And I think we can increase the padding of the left and the right. So here I'll just type 16 pixels, and I think that looks all right. And here I'll just change the name to tag, and we'll just change the names of all of these. I'll just change this to thumbnail, and I'll just change this to title. Right now we need to add this tag inside our post component. So let's drag it and bring it over here. So if I just leave it at the top, we can see that we have the tag at the top. Now we need to set an absolute position for this tag. So for that you can just click on this button called absolute position. And now you can go ahead and bring this anywhere you want. So I'll just bring it over here. I'll just set the spacing to 10 pixels from the right and 10 pixels from the top. Or let's change this to 8 pixels. And now here in the constraints, let's select top and right. And now let's go ahead and increase or decrease the width. So let's select the component and let's increase the width. And we can see that the tag is always on the right. Now we also need to increase the width of this thumbnail as we increase the width of this component. So let's select the thumbnail and let's change the width to fill container. And now we can see when we increase the width of the component, the width of the thumbnail also changes. And if I decrease the width, we have the heading going to the next line. So everything is working alright. This is completely responsive. Alright, that's basically it with the component of our blog post card. So I'll just bring it over here. And that's basically it with the components of our website. These are the two components. We have the heading component and also the blog post card component. And both these components are responsive. So if I go over here to assets, and here we have just one component. I think we forgot to create this as a component. So let's select this and let's click on create component. And I'll just change the name to blog post card. Right now let's go back to the assets and let's drag this component over here. And here we have this component. Now you can go ahead and increase or decrease the width. So if I just increase the width, we can see that it is completely responsive. You can go ahead and change the image, the tag, and the heading. Now in this video, we will start with the desktop version of our website. So let's get started. The first thing we will do is create a frame. So let's click on frame and let's click over here. And I'll just select frame and let's select the size as iMac. Right, here is our frame. I'll just rename this to desktop. Now the first thing we need to do is add a background image. So for that, let's create a rectangle and let's fill it across the screen. And let's add an image over here. Now if you already have an image, you can go over here to fill and select image and just add the image over here. But for this project, I will add an image from a plugin called Unsplash. So let's right click over here and go to plugins, and I'll just go over here to installed plugins and click on Unsplash. And if you don't have this plugin installed, you can go over here to find more plugins, and here you can search for Unsplash and just click on run. And here I'll just search for music production and let's scroll down, and here's the image that we need. So let's click on the image. And here we can see that the image has been added as a background. Now the next thing we will do is create the menu bar. So for that, let's create a rectangle and let's set the height to 80 pixels and let's set the width to 1024 pixels. And let's bring it to the center. So you can just click on this button called Align Horizontal Centers. And from the top, I'll just add a gap of 24 pixels. If you press Option or Alt, you can see the spacing between the elements. And now let's add a border radius to the bottom left and bottom right. So let's click on this rectangle. And here if you add a border radius, it will be added to all the sides. So if I just type 10, we can see that the border radius is added to all the sides. We'll just add it to the bottom left and bottom right. So let's click on this button called Independent Corners. And let's make the first and the second values 0. Right now we have border radius for bottom left and bottom right. Right now let's select this and let's change the color. So let's select the color black and we'll set the opacity to 50%. And let's also add a background blur. So let's click on this effects and let's select background blur from here and I'll just change the value to, let's try 40, and I think that looks alright. Now let's go ahead and create the logo. So let's create a text, and the logo is called Sound Design, and let's change the font to Inter, and I'll just change the font weight to extra bold, and let's select the size to 16 pixels. And for design we need to have a different color, so let's select design, and let's select the red color. So I'll just select this color right here. We will have a gap of 32 pixels from the left, so let's bring it over here to the left. You can press shift and arrow keys to move it 10 pixels. So I'll just bring it to 32 pixels from the left, and I'll just bring it to the center of this rectangle. So let's select the rectangle and then this text, and here let's select this option called Align Vertical Centers. Right now let's create the menu items. Let's duplicate this text, so I'll just press Option, or if you're using Windows you can just press Alt and drag this over here. And the first menu item we need to have is About. Let's change the color to white, and let's duplicate this, and we will have a gap of 50 pixels, and let's change this to Course Details, and let's duplicate this, and for this one let's type blog, and let's duplicate this once more, and this will be called Testimonials. Right now let's select all of these, and let's bring it to the right, and we will leave a gap of 32 pixels. Right now let's make this a group, so you can just right click over here and select Group Selection, or you can just press Command or Control G, and let's just name this Menu Items, and let's select the logo, the menu items, and also this background rectangle, and let's create a group, and let's name this Menu Bar. Alright, that's it with the menu bar. Now let's go ahead and design this element over here. So here we have this text and this button. So let's go back, and let's create a rectangle, and let's bring it over here to align with this menu bar, and we have a padding of 128 pixels on the right. Let's increase the height, and we will have a corner radius at the top left and top right. So let's select independent corners. Let's give it a corner radius of 20 pixels. Right now let's select this, and let's give it a background color of black, and let's also set the opacity to 50, and let's add a background blur. So let's click on Effects, and let's select background blur, and let's increase the value. Let's try 40. I think we can increase it a little bit more, so I think 50 looks alright. And we'll also add a border, so let's click on plus over here in stroke, and let's select the color of the border to white, and let's increase the border weight. I think 4 pixels looks alright, and we don't want to have this border at the bottom, so let's click on this button called Strokes Per Side, and here I'll just select Custom, and for the bottom I'll just set it to 0. Right now let's add the text, so let's click on Text, and let's click over here. I'll just type Sound Design Masterclass, and from the left we will have a gap of, let's try 40 pixels, and after that we need to have an underline, so let's select this rectangle, and let's give it a height of 4 pixels, and let's bring it over here to the left, and let's decrease the width. I'll just set it to 60, and let's change the color to red, so I'll just select this color right here. Now we need to add this text right here called Learn the Art of Sound Design. So let's copy this text over here, and let's type Learn the Art of Sound Design, and for this we will set the font to Allegria, and we'll set the font size to, let's try 60 pixels, and we'll set the font weight to bold. I think we can decrease the font size a little bit, so let's try 40 pixels, And let's decrease the width, and from the right we will have a gap of 40 pixels. So you can just press Command and Shift and press the right arrow to increase the width 10 pixels. Right now the last thing we need to do is add this button. So let's select a text and let's type demo lesson, and let's decrease the font size and let's set it to 16 pixels. Let's change the font to Inter. Right now let's add an auto layout. So let's press Shift A and let's set the background color. So let's click on Fill and let's set the color to red. Let's also add a border radius. So let's try 10 pixels. And let's increase the left and the right padding. So here in the horizontal padding, let's type 32. And I think that's it with the element. So let's bring all of these elements to the bottom. And let's decrease the height a little bit. And that's basically it with this element. Now let's select this and let's make it a group. And here we can see that this rectangle is also being selected. So you can just press Shift and click on this rectangle. Now let's make this a group. So I just press Command G and here I'll just type hero text. Alright, that's basically it with the header. So let's select all of these and let's group it. And here I'll just type header. Alright, that's basically it with the header of our design. Alright, first of all, let's increase the height of the frame. So let's select the frame and let's increase the height. So let's drag this down. Right now the first thing we will do is we will add a rectangle as a background. So let's select this rectangle and let's create a background. I'll just drag it across the screen and we'll just increase the height and let's give it a background color of black. So let's select this and let's scroll down, and in the fill I'll just select the black color. Right now let's add all the elements that we need to have inside this topic section. So the first thing we need to have is this heading. So for the heading we already have created a component. So here we can see we have created this component for the heading. So let's go ahead and use this heading. Now to use that we can just go over here to assets and just drag this heading and bring it over here. Now from the left side we will have a gap of 128 pixels because even for the menu bar we have a gap of 128 pixels. So if you press Option or Alt you can see the spacing. So let's go ahead and let's bring it to the left and we will have a gap of 128 pixels. And from the top we will have a gap of 80 pixels. So let me just move this 2 pixels to the top. Right now let's increase the width of this heading and I'll just increase the width to 1024 pixels because from the right here also we have a gap of 128 pixels. Right now let's add the heading. So let's change the text and we need to type what will you learn, and that's it with the heading. Now let's add these bullet points. So for that let's create a text. So let's click on text and let's click over here and let's add the first topic, which is what are frequencies. And for this text we will have a font family of Allegria and we'll set the font weight to regular and the font size to 20 pixels. And on the left side we need to have a dot. So let's click on this arrow and select ellipse and let's create a circle and let's set the width and the height to 8 pixels. So we can just click on this button. So we can just click on this button to have the same height and width. So just set the height to 8 pixels. Right now let's bring this over here to this text and let's set the color of this dot. So here let's go to fill and let's set it to this red color that we have in our website. And from the text we will have a gap of 16 pixels and I think that looks alright. So let's select both of these and let's create a group. So let's press Command G or Control G and now this is a group. So let's go back to our layers and here we can see this is a group. So let's bring it up a little bit and we will have a gap of 40 pixels from the top, and from the left we will have a gap of 140 pixels. Right now let's duplicate this group. So we need to have 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 more groups. So let's select this group and let's press Ctrl D or Command D to duplicate it, and let's bring it down, and we will have a gap of 24 pixels. Now let's duplicate this 4 more times. So I'll just press Command D or Ctrl D 4 more times, and we can see that it has the correct spacing for all these elements. Right now I'll just quickly add all the topics. So let's type using DAW and vocals processing, and then we have mixing, and then we have mixing console and mastering. Right, that's it with the topics. Now let's create an image over here on the right. So for that, let's create a rectangle. So let's click on this arrow and select rectangle, and let's create a rectangle over here, and we will have a gap of 140 pixels from the right. Let me just decrease the width a little bit, and we'll also decrease the height to match with the number of topics. Right now you can add the image that you want over here. So you can just go over here to fill and select image and select the image from here. But I'll just use a plugin called Unsplash. So let's right click over here and go to plugins, and in recents we have Unsplash. So I'll just type DAW, and let's select one of these images from here. Let me just select this one right here. Right now here we can see from the top we have a gap of 80 pixels. Now from the bottom also we will have a gap of 80 pixels. So if I click on this rectangle and if I press Option or Alt, and now here we can see we have a gap of 177 pixels. So let's reduce the height of this rectangle. So I'll just press Shift and Command, and let's press the up arrow, and now we have 77 pixels. So let's just press Command and down arrow 3 more times, and now we have 80 pixels from the bottom. And I think we also have some shape over here on the right, so let's add that as well. So let's click on rectangle and let's create a shape. So we will have a width of 8 pixels, and let's set the height to 60 pixels, and let's duplicate this, and let's rotate it. So press Shift and drag it over here, and we'll set the height of this to 80 pixels, and let's just bring it together, and let's select both of these, and let's change the color. So I'll just click on fill, and let's choose a color. So we'll choose the yellow color, so this color right here. So let's select the color picker and let's select this color, and let's also group this. So let's press Command G, and I'll just position this, and I think that looks alright. Now let's increase the height of this background rectangle so that we have a padding of 80 pixels from this element. So now we can see we have a padding of 47 pixels. So let's press Command and Shift and press the down arrow, and now we have 80 pixels from the bottom. Right now let's select all of this and make it a group. So let's press Command G, and let's just name this topics, and that's basically it with the topics section of our design. So here the first thing we will do is we will add the background color. So for that, let's create a rectangle, and let's make it the length of our frame, and let's increase the height a little bit. And now let's change the color of this rectangle. So let's go to fill, and let's click on this color picker, and let's choose this color right here. So now we can see we have the correct background color. Now in this section we need to have this icon, and we have this heading and this text right here. So first of all, let's create this text. So let's go back to Figma and let's click on text, and let's type 23,000 plus, and let's increase the font size. So let's go over here to design, and we'll keep the font as Inter, and we'll change the font weight to black, and let's change the font size to 40. Right now let's bring this down a little bit, and let's also add the text called students. So I'll just duplicate this down here. We can just press Option or Alt and drag it down here, and let's type students. And for this text, let's change the font to Allegria, and we'll change the font weight to bold, and let's change the font size to 30, and let's center align this. So let's bring it and drag it over here, and here we can see we have this indication that it is in the center, and I think that looks alright. Now let's add the icon. So let's just move this down a little bit. Now for the icon, we're going to use a plugin called Iconify. So let's right click over here, and let's go to plugins, and you can click on find more plugins, or if you already have the plugin installed, you can just go over here to installed plugins and click on Iconify. And here let's add the search term. So I'll just type student, and we have a lot of icons over here. Let's choose one of these. Let's select this one right here, and let's click on import icon. And here we can see that the icon has been imported to our design. Let's drag it over here into our section, and let's just bring it up. So you can just press Command and right curly braces, and you can go up. So I'll just bring it above everything. Right, let's see what is the height and width of this icon. Let's change this to 100 pixels. Right, now let's bring this to the center. So let's drag it and bring it over here, and I think that looks alright. Right, now let's select all of this, and let's add an auto layout. So let's press Shift A, and let's decrease the padding a little bit. Now let's select this, and let's rename this to students. And now let's duplicate this. So let's press Command D and drag it over here. And for this we need to change the details. So here we can see we have 26 hours and video content. So let's change that. Let's type 26 hours and video content. Right, now we need to change this icon. So let's go back to the plugin Iconify. Let's right click over here and go to plugins and Iconify. Let's search for video, and let's go to the next page, and we will use this icon right here. So let's click on this icon, and let's click on import icon, and the icon has been imported over here. Let's drag it over here, and we need to bring it to the top. So you can just drag this and bring it to the top. Right, let's also set the width and the height to 100. So let's type 100. Right, now let's replace this icon with this icon right here. So let's drag it and bring it to the top, and let's just delete this. Right, that's it with both these icons. So let's select both of these, and let's see whether they are aligned properly. So let's click on this icon right here called Align Vertical Centers, and let's also bring it to the center. So let's drag it and bring it over here. Right, now we also need to have this element right here. So let's just copy this from here. Let's press Command C, and let's press Command V over here, and I'll just drag it over here to the top, and we'll just rotate this. So I'll just press Shift and rotate it, and we will have a gap of 80 pixels from the top. So let's bring it up, and let's also bring this to the left, and we'll also bring these two elements to the top a little bit. And we also need to change the color of this. So let's select this, and let's click on this fill, and let's choose the red color. Right, now let's decrease the height of this rectangle, and we will have a gap of 80 pixels from the bottom. So let's just decrease the height. Right, now we have a padding of 80 pixels. Right, now let's design the next section, which is this post section. So let's create a rectangle. Before that, let's group this. So let's select all of these, and let's press Command G, and I'll just change the name to info. Right, now let's create a rectangle, and let's increase the width and also the height, and let's change the background color. So for this we will change the color to this color right here. So let's select fill, and let's select the color picker, and let's choose this color right here. Right, now the first thing we need to have over here is the heading. So here we have this heading, latest posts. So let's go to assets, and we have the heading component over here. Let's drag this and bring it over here. And from the left we need to have a gap of 128 pixels. And from the top we need to have a gap of 80 pixels. Right now let's change the heading to latest posts. And let's increase the heading width. Now for this heading we have a different color for this underline, and we have created a variant for that. So let's choose desktop light from here, and now we have the correct heading. Now let's add the blog post. So for that we have created this component called blog post card. So let's just drag this over here, and I'll just drag this and bring it over here. And from the top we will have a gap of 40 pixels. Now we need to create two more posts, so let's just duplicate this and we'll duplicate it once more. And now let's change these details. So for the first one we have a heading of how to use drum machine in Logic Pro X. So let's change this heading. And for the tag we need to have DAW. So let's change this to DAW. And let's change the image. So let's double click over here in the image. And here you can go to this image and choose your own image from here. I'm just going to use an image from Unsplash. So let's right click over here and go to plugins and Unsplash. And let's search for DAW. And let's use this image right here. Right, that's it with the first card. Now let's go to the second card, and for this we have a heading of how to mix guitars effectively. So let's add that over here. And here we can see for the first card we have two lines of text, so we have a larger height. So for the second one let's add an empty line, and let's change the tag to mixing. So let's type mixing over here, and let's change the image. So let's double click on this image, and let's right click over here and go to plugins, Unsplash, and let's search for guitar, and let's choose an image from here. Let's choose this image right here. Alright, that's it with the second card. Now let's go to the third card, and for that we have a title of the real power of harmonies in music production. So let's add that over here. And for the tag we have Vox, and let's change the image. So let's right click over here and go to plugins and go to Unsplash, and let's search for choir, and we'll just use this image right here. Now let's add this button for all posts. So for that let's create a text, and let's type all posts, and let's change the font size to 16 pixels, and we'll change the color to black. So let's select black from here, and now let's add an auto layout. So let's press Shift A, and let's add a background color. So let's click on fill. Let's decrease the padding from the top and the bottom. So here we can just decrease the padding. This here is the horizontal padding, so let's increase that a little bit, and let's change the vertical padding. Let's bring it down. Let's change it to 4, and let's also add border radius. Let's type 10 over here. Right now let's bring this to the right, and we will have a gap of 30 pixels. Right now let's decrease the height of this rectangle, and we need to have a padding of 80 pixels. Right now it is 229, so let's decrease the height. So now we have a padding of 80 pixels. Right, that's basically it with the post section. So let's select all of these, and let's make it a group, and let's just name this blog. And with that we have completed the blog section. So this is how our website looks right now. The first thing we will do is we will add the background color. So let's create a rectangle for that, and let's stretch it across the width of the frame, and let's also increase the height, and let's add a background color of this color right here. So let's select fill, and let's choose this color right here. Right now the first thing we need to have is this heading which says what our students say. So for the heading we already have a component. So let's go to assets, and let's drag this component over here, and from the left I will have a space of 128 pixels, and from the top we will have a space of 80 pixels. And let me just increase the width of this element. Right now let's change the heading to what our students say, And now we need to have an image for the student, and we have the name and then we have the comment. So let's create a rectangle, and let's give it a height and width of 100 pixels, and we'll also add a border radius of 10 pixels, and from the left we will have a gap of 128 pixels, and from the top we will have a gap of 50 pixels. And now here we need to add the image of the student. Now you can go over here to fill and go to image and add the image from here, but I will use this plugin called Unsplash. So let's right click over here and go to plugins and go to Unsplash, and let's search for person, and let's just select this one right here. And after that we need to have the name, so let's create a text element, and let's type the name Peter Adams, and let's set the font size to 20 pixels, and let's set the font to Allegria, and let's set the font weight to bold, and let's bring it to the top and align it with this image, and we will have a gap of 20 pixels, or let's try 16 pixels. And then we need to have the comment or the review. So here we have one more text. You can just duplicate this over here, and let's add this text right here. So I'll just copy this text from here and let's paste it over here. And for this I'll just set the font weight to regular, and let's set the font size to 16 pixels. So that's it with the first testimonial, and let's select these three elements from here and let's make it a group. So let's press Ctrl G and let's type testimonial, or we'll just type testimonial 1. Let's add a fixed width for this review text. So let's double click over here. So let's set it to auto height, and let's set the width to, let's try 264 pixels. And now just copy this group and paste it on the right side, and let's also paste it once more. Right, now let's change the details. So for the second one, let's go ahead and change the image. So I'll just right click over here and go to plugins and Unsplash, and let's type person, and let's select this image right here, and let's change the name to Robert Fox. And now let's add the text. Right, now let's go to the next group and let's select the image. So let's right click over here and go to plugins and click on Unsplash, and let's type person, and let's select this one right here, and let's change the name and let's change the text. Alright, now here we can see we have these three testimonials. Now let's go ahead and bring it to the right. So we will have a gap of 128 pixels from the right. So I'll just move it to the right. Right, now we need to space them correctly. So let's select all these groups, and let's go over here to this button and let's click on tidy up. And now we can see every element has the correct spacing. Now let's also decrease the width of this rectangle, and we need to have a gap of 80 pixels from the bottom. Right, now we have 80 pixels at the bottom, and that's it with the testimonial section. Now let's go ahead and design the footer. So let's create a rectangle for that. Before that, let's go ahead and group all of this. So let's select all of these and let's press Ctrl G or Command G, and I'll just change the name to testimonials. Right, now let's create a rectangle, and let's increase the width and the height, and let's change the color to black. Now the first thing we need to have over here is the logo. So let's copy the logo from here. I'll just double click over here and let's press Command G, and here let's press Command V, and let's bring it over here to the top, and from the left we will have a gap of 128 pixels. Now for the footer we will have less padding at the top and the bottom. So let's set a gap of 40 pixels from the top, and below the logo we have these icons of Facebook, Instagram and Twitter. And for the icons we will use a plugin called Iconify. So let's right click over here and let's go to plugins and click on Iconify, and let's search for Facebook, and let's select this icon and let's click on import icon, and the Facebook icon has been imported. And we also need to get the icons of Twitter and Instagram as well. So let's tap Twitter. Let's get this icon right here. And let's drag this icon right here. And then lastly, we need to have Instagram. And let's select this one right here. And let's drag it over here. Now for some of these icons, we have some padding at the sides. So let's go ahead and remove that. Let's just go ahead and select the vector. And we'll just bring it outside this frame. So now we can see we have this vector. Let's just delete this frame. And let's do the same for the other icons as well. So for the Facebook, we have this vector. So let's bring it out here. And let's delete this frame. And let's search for Twitter. Twitter is right here. And for Twitter, we don't have any outer frame. So now let's go ahead and bring it over here inside the footer. And we also need to change the size. So let's select constrain proportions. And let's set the height and the width to 32 pixels. And we'll do the same for Twitter and Instagram as well. Let's set the height and the width to 32 pixels. And even for Twitter, let's set the height and the width to 32 pixels. Now for these icons, we also need to have different colors. So let's go ahead and choose the colors. So for Facebook, let's add the color of Facebook. So here, instead of this black color, let's change the color code to 4267B2. And let's change the color of Twitter. And for Twitter, we have a hex code of 1DA1F2. And then lastly for Instagram, let's change the color to E1306C. And let's bring it over here. And I think the Twitter icon is outside our frame. So let's bring it inside the desktop frame. Let's also change the names. So this is Instagram and this is Facebook. We need to bring it outside this frame. And let's change the name to Facebook logo. And let's select this and let's change the name to Twitter logo. And now between these, we will have a gap of 16 pixels. And let's select these three and let's group it. And let's tap social icons. Right now, let's bring it over here inside the footer. And we will have a spacing of 36 pixels. And after that, we need to have this text over here. So let's create a text element. And let's add the text over here. And let's change the text to Allegria. And let's change the font weight to regular. Right now, the next thing we need to have are these links. So let's copy this text over here. Let's press Option or Alt and drag it over here. And let's tap Quick Links. And let's change the font weight to bold. Let's change the font size to 18 pixels. And let's also change the color. So let's select this pinkish color over here. And now let's copy this once more over here. And we have these two links, blog and privacy policy. So let's type blog. And let me just duplicate this and bring it down here. And I will just change the text to privacy policy. And let's select both of these and let's bring it up a little bit. Right, that's it with the quick links. So let's select all of these and let's make it a group. And now let's duplicate this and bring it over here. And for this, we have contact us. So let's type contact us. And let's add these details over here. And we'll also have a gap of 50 pixels from the top. So let's bring it up a little bit. Now let's bring this last group over here to the right. And we'll have a gap of 128 pixels from the right. Right now, let's space all of this correctly. So let's select these elements. Let's make it a group. And let's select all of these elements over here. And let's click on this button and let's click on Tidy Up. And that looks alright. I think we can bring this down a little bit. Right, that's basically it with the footer. Now let's go ahead and decrease the height. And we'll have a gap of 50 pixels. Right, that's it with the footer. Now let's select all of this and let's make it a group. and I'll just name it footer. And let's select this frame. So you can just press Command or Control and click over here, and let's decrease the height. And here we can see when we decrease the height, we have the social media icons moving up. So let's fix that. Let's go over here and let's click on this, and let's click on constraints. Let's select left and top. Right now let's decrease the height of this frame. And that's it with our desktop version. So this is how it looks. We have all these sections designed over here. Now the first thing we will do is create a frame. So let's click on frame, and let's click over here, and let's select one of these presets. So let's go to frame, and we will select this one right here, iPad Pro 11, and this is our frame. Let's go ahead and change the name of the frame to tablet. Right now let's increase the height. Now the tablet version is almost similar to this desktop version, so I just move this over here to the right, and let's copy and paste these sections over here in the middle, and then we will edit that and add it over here. So first of all, let's copy this header section from here. So I'll just press Option, or you can just press Alt on Windows, and just drag it over here. So here we have the header. Now let's bring this over here into the tablet version. Now before that, we have to decrease the width of this header. So first of all, let's click on tablet, and here we can see the width is 834 pixels. So I'll just decrease the width over here. I'll just select the background rectangle, and let's decrease the width. Let's set it to 834 pixels. I'll just change this to 834. And now we need to bring this to the left. So let's drag it over here to the left. And we can also decrease the width of this a little bit. So let's decrease the width a little bit. And now let's fix the menu bar. So let's bring this over here to the left. And we will have a gap of, let's try 40 pixels. And even from the right, we need to have a gap of 40 pixels. So first of all, let's copy these menu items and let's bring it over here to the left. And now let's decrease the width of this rectangle. And from the right, we will have a gap of 40 pixels. And here for the menu bar, we have a padding of 32 pixels. So let's add the same padding over here. So let's move it over here to the right. Alright, that's it with the menu bar. Now let's increase the height of this header a little bit. So let's drag this over here. And I think that looks alright. And here we have a lot of width for this text. Let's decrease the width a little bit. And let's bring this element to the bottom. And from the right, we will have a spacing of 70 pixels. And now let's add this into our tablet frame. So let's drag this and bring it over here. So that's it with the header of our tablet version. Right now let's bring this topic section. So let's press Option and drag it over here. And we need to decrease the width of this to 834 pixels. So let's decrease the width of this rectangle and let's set it to 834. And now we need to bring all of this to the left. So we will have a spacing of 70 pixels from the left. So let's bring it over here, and from the top we will have a gap of 80 pixels. And let's also select all these topics and let's bring it to the left. And from the left we will have a gap of, let's try 90 pixels. And let's bring this image to the left. And we'll also decrease the width of this image. And from the right we will have a gap of 70 pixels. And I think that looks alright. And let's also bring this element to the left. And let's position it correctly. Right now from the bottom of this we will have a gap of 80 pixels. So let's press Option, and we have 78 pixels. So let's scale it up a little bit. Let's press Command and press the down arrow twice. And now we have a gap of 80 pixels. Right now let's bring this into our tablet frame. And I think we have a lot of width for this heading. So let's decrease the width a little bit. And from the right we will have a gap of 70 pixels. Alright, let's drag this into our tablet frame, and let's bring it up. Alright, that's it with the topics section. Now let's work with this info section. So let's press Option and drag it over here, and let's decrease the width of the rectangle to 834 pixels, and we'll also decrease the font size of these headings. So let's select this, and let's set the font size to 32 pixels, and let's select this and let's set the font size to 24 pixels, and let's do the same for this element. So let's select it, and let's set the font size to 32, and let's select this and let's set the font size to 24, and let's align this correctly. And for this we will have a gap of, let's try 140 pixels from the left, 140 pixels from the right, and even from the left we will have a gap of 140 pixels. Let's bring this up a little bit, and from the bottom we will have a gap of 80 pixels. Right, now let's drag this and add it into our frame, and let's bring it up. Right, that's it with the info section. Now let's go ahead and duplicate this block section. So let's press Option and drag it over here. And for the block section we will have two blocks at the top and one block post at the bottom. So let's increase the height of this rectangle, and let's bring this down, and we'll also set the width of this to 834 pixels, and we will set a padding of 70 pixels from the left, and let's also decrease the width of this heading, and from the right we will have a gap of 70 pixels, and let's bring this over here to the left, and let's bring this to the left as well, and we need to have a gap of 70 pixels from the right, and we can increase the width of these a little bit. So right now it is set to 314 pixels. Let's increase it to 324 pixels, and even for this let's increase it to 324 pixels, and that looks alright. Now for the third post we will have a width of 100%. So let's drag it over here, and here we will have a width of 100%, and we'll bring it up a little bit. Right, now we'll place this button over here on the right. Right, now let's decrease the width of this rectangle, and we will have a gap of 80 pixels from the bottom. Right, now let's bring this over here to the right. So let's drag it and bring it inside our frame. Right, now the next section we need to add is this testimonial section. So let's duplicate it, and we need to bring all these elements one below the other. So let's select the rectangle and let's increase the height, and let's bring all of these one below the other, and we'll also set the width of this to 834 pixels, and let's have a padding of 70 pixels from the left, and let's also decrease the width of this heading. Right, now let's select the first testimonial, and we will have a gap of 90 pixels from the left, and let's bring these two elements to the right, and I think that looks alright. Let's do the same for this testimonial, and we will leave a gap of 50 pixels, and let's bring this name and this testimonial to the right, and we'll also increase the width of this text a little bit, and from the right also we will have a gap of 90 pixels, and now let's do the same for this testimonial, and let's bring the name and this text over here to the right, and that's basically it with the testimonial section. So let's decrease the height of this rectangle, and from the bottom we will have a gap of 80 pixels. Right, now let's bring this over here to the right, and I think we don't have the correct padding at the top, so let's check it. We have a padding of 48, so we need to bring this rectangle to the top, and let's increase the height. Right now we have the correct padding, so let's bring this over here inside this frame. And now the last thing we need to add is this footer, so let's duplicate it and let's bring this over here to the left, and let's decrease the width of this rectangle and let's set it to 834. And from the left and the right we will have a padding of 70 pixels, and even from the right we will have a padding of 70 pixels. Right now let's select these three groups and let's go over here to this button and let's click on tidy up, and we can see everything is tidied up. Right now let's drag this footer inside our tablet frame, and that's it with the footer. And with that we have completed the design of the tablet version. So let's decrease the height of this frame. So I'll just press Command and click over here, and let's decrease the height, and let's also bring this over here to the left. Now the first thing we need to do is create a frame. So let's go over here to frame, and let's click over here and let's change the frame preset. So let's click on frame and let's choose a preset from here. Let's choose iPhone 11 Pro, and now let's change the name of this frame to smartphone. And just like we did with the tablet version, let's go ahead and copy these sections over here, and we'll make changes and add them inside our frame. So first of all, let's copy this header over here. So we can just press Option, or you can press Alt on Windows and drag it over here. Right now we need to make the changes. So the first thing we will do is decrease the width. So here if you go to the smartphone frame, here we can see we have a width of 375 pixels. So let's change the width of this. So let's double click over here and select this rectangle, and let's change the width to 375, and let's also decrease the height a little bit. And now let's bring this element inside our header, and we'll also decrease the font size. So let's decrease the font size to, let's try 32 pixels, and I think that looks alright. Let's also bring these elements down a little bit, and let's select this and bring it down, and now we can decrease the height. Now here we will have a padding of 32 pixels. So right now it is 10 pixels, so let's move it to the right, and let's also add the padding on the right. So let's select this rectangle and let's decrease the width, and we will have a padding of 32. And let's also move these elements to the right a little bit. So from the left we will have a padding of, let's try 24 pixels. Right now let's focus on the menu bar. Now even for the menu bar we will have a padding of 32 pixels. So let's move it to the left, and let's also move it to the top a little bit. So let's have a padding of 16 pixels from the top, and we'll also decrease the height of this menu bar. So let's double click over here and select this rectangle, and right now the height is 80 pixels. So let's change this to 60, and now let's move this logo to the center, and from the left we will have a padding of 24 pixels. Now in the smartphone version we don't want to display these menu items, so let's select this and let's delete it, and let's also decrease the width of this rectangle. And from the right we will have a padding of 32. Right now here on the right we need to have the menu icon. So let's create a menu icon. So I'll just select the rectangle, and let's create a rectangle over here, and we'll set the width to, let's try 20, and we'll set the height to 3, and we'll also add a border radius of 3. Right now let's duplicate this. So let's press Command D and bring it down, and we'll have a gap of, let's try 5 pixels. And I think that looks alright. So let's select both of these and let's group it. Let's press Command G and let's name it menu icon, and let's bring this inside the header. So I'll just drag it and drop it over here inside the header, and let's also center align this. So I'll just drag it over here, and from the right we will have a padding of 24 pixels. And I think we need to bring this menu icon inside the menu bar. So let's drag it and drop it over here. Right, that's it with the menu bar. Now let's drag this over here inside our frame. So this is how it looks right now. Now the next thing we need to have is this section over here, topic section. So let's duplicate it. And first of all, let's increase the height of this frame. So just select this frame and increase the height. And let's bring this over here. Now for the mobile version, we don't want to display this image, so let's delete it. And we'll also have to change the heading. So let's double click over here and let's change the heading type to smartphone. Now from the top, we will have a padding of 60 pixels. And let's bring all of these to the top as well. And let's select all of this and let's have a padding from the left of 32 pixels. Right now, let's decrease the width of this rectangle and let's set it to 375. And let's also bring this element over here. And let's also decrease the width of this heading. Let's bring this up a little bit. And from the bottom, we will have a padding of 60 pixels. So let's decrease the height of this rectangle. We can just press Shift and Command and press the up arrow. Right now we have a padding of 60 pixels at the bottom. I think we can bring this over here to the right. Right now let's drag and drop this inside our frame. And let's bring this up a little bit. So that's it with the topic section. Now let's bring the next section, which is the info section. So let's duplicate it over here. And first of all, let's select the rectangle and let's change the width to 375. And let's change the height. Now we will place these elements one below the other. So I just select this. And from the left, we will have a padding of 32. And from the top, we will have a padding of 60. And let's just bring this over here to the center. And let's bring this also over here in the center. And we will have a gap of 80 pixels. Right now, let's decrease the height of this. And we will have a padding of 60 pixels from the bottom. I think we can bring these up a little bit. Now let's decrease the height of this rectangle. Right, that's it with the info section. Now let's bring this over here inside our frame. And let's just move it up. Right, now the next section is the block section. So let's duplicate it over here. And for the block section, we need to have all these block posts one below the other. Now first of all, let's select the rectangle. And let's set the width to 375. And let's also change the heading to smartphone light. And we'll also set the padding. So from the top, we need to have a padding of 60. And from the left, we need to have a padding of 32. And let's also decrease the width. And from the right, we will have a padding of 32. Right now, let's bring this over here to the left. And from the top, we will have a gap of, let's try 40 pixels. And even on the right, we will have a padding of 32 pixels. Right now, let's bring the next block post. So I'll just increase the height. And let's bring this over here. And let's decrease the width. And let's do the same for this block post. And let's decrease the width. I think we can decrease the spacing between these elements. So let's select all of these. And here we can see we have this indication which says 40. So let's drag it and let's set it to 30. So now we can see we have a gap of 30 pixels for all these block posts. Right now, let's bring this button over here. And let's set it over here on the right. Right now, let's decrease the height of this rectangle. And we will have a padding of 60 pixels from the bottom. Right now, let's add this inside our frame. So let's drag it over here and bring it to the top. Right now, the next section is the testimonial section. So let's duplicate it and bring it over here. And let's increase the height of this rectangle. And first of all, let's change the heading. So let's select it and change this to smartphone. And let's bring both of these to the bottom. And now we need to have this image on the top, and then we need to have the name and then the review. So let's double click over here, and let's select these two elements, and let's drag them over here, and we will center align all of this. So first of all, let's decrease the width of our rectangle. So let's select this, and let's decrease the width to 375, and let's also set the padding for the heading. So from the top we need to have a padding of 60 pixels, and from the left we need to have a padding of 32, and let's also decrease the width. Right now let's bring this over here to the top, and we will have a gap of 40 pixels. Right now let's select all these elements, and let's click on this button to align everything to the center, and let's bring everything to the center. Right, let's do the same for the other testimonials as well. So let's double click on this image, let's bring it over here, and we will have a gap of 50 pixels, or let's try 60 pixels, and let's bring these elements over here, and let's bring this review to the center, and here also we will set a padding of 32 pixels, and let's decrease the width, and let's set it to 32 from the right side, and we'll also text align this. So let's press on this button called text align center. Right now let's work with the third testimonial, and let's double click and bring this over here, and let's bring this heading over here, and let's bring this review to the center. Right, that's it with the testimonial section. Now let's decrease the height of this, and let's set a padding of 60 pixels to the bottom. Right now let's bring this over here inside our frame. Now the last thing we need to add is this footer, so let's drag it over here, and for the footer we need to have all these elements one below the other. So let's double click on this rectangle, and let's increase the height, and let's bring these elements to the left. First of all, let's bring this text to the bottom, and let's bring these elements to the left, and let's also set the width of this to 375, and we will have a gap of 40 pixels, and let's also bring this element over here. And now let's select all of this, and let's move everything to the left so that we have a padding of 32 pixels from the left. Right now let's decrease the height, and from the top we have a padding of 50. So let's decrease the height, and from the bottom we will have a padding of 50. Right, that's it with the footer. Now let's go ahead and drag this over here inside our frame, and let's decrease the height of this frame. So let's press Command and click over here, and let's decrease the height. And that's basically it with the smartphone version. So this is how it looks. Here we have the header, then we have the topics section, we have the info section, and then we have the latest posts, and then we have the testimonials, and then the footer. So with that we have completed designing the smartphone version. Right, now the first thing we will do is let's create a frame for the menus. So let's click on frame, and let's click over here, and we will set the width of the frame the same as the width of this smartphone frame. So let's click on this, and here we have a width of 375. So let's set the width to 375, and let's increase the height a little bit, and let's change the name of the frame to menu items. Right, now let's change the background color. So let's click on this frame, and let's click on this fill button, and let's select this color right here, and now let's add the menu items. So the menu items are already over here inside this tablet version. So let's double click over here, and let's copy this from here, and let's paste it over here. So let's press Command V, and here we have all the menus. So let's bring this over here, and we need to bring all of these one below the other. So let's double click over here and bring it over here. Let's double click on this one and bring it over here. And in the same way, let's bring the last menu. So let's bring it over here. We need to bring it inside the menu items group. Right now, let's position this correctly. So first of all, let's set the position of everything to the same, which is 8 pixels, and then we will change it. And now let's increase the spacing a little bit. So let's increase the spacing to, let's try 30 pixels. And I think that looks alright. So let's bring it up a little bit. And from the left, we will have a spacing of 32 pixels. Now here on the right side, we need to have the close icon. So let's create a close icon. Let's click on this rectangle. And let's create a rectangle over here. And we'll set the width to 20 pixels. And let's set the height to 3 pixels. And we'll also set a border radius of 3 pixels. Let's set the color of this to white. And let's set the rotation to 45 degrees. Now let's duplicate this. So I'll just press Command D. And for this, I'll set a rotation of negative 45 degrees. And now here we have this close icon. So let's space it correctly. And let's select both of these. And let's press Command G to group it. And let's name this close icon. Now we need to have some padding for this close icon. So for that, let's create an auto layout. So let's press Shift A. And here we can see when we create an auto layout, we have both these elements separated. So let's undo this. We will flatten this first. So let's right click over here and click on flatten. Now we can see this is a vector, and let's also set the width to 16 pixels and also the height to 16 pixels. Right now let's add the auto layout. So let's press Shift A, and here we can see we have this padding of 10 pixels. Let's change it to 8 pixels. Right now let's bring this over here to the side, and now we need to do the same for this icon right here, because we're going to click on this icon, so we need to have some padding. So even if the user clicks somewhere over here, the icon should be pressed. So let's double click on this, and let's press Shift A, and let's add a padding of 8 pixels. Right now let's bring this to the center, and now here we can see from the edge we have a gap of 40 pixels. So let's add the same gap over here for the close button, and let's also check from the top. From the top we have a gap of 32 pixels. So let's set a gap of 32 pixels from the top. And from the right we will have a gap of 40 pixels. Right now we need to display these menu items when we click on this menu button. So for that we have to go to prototype, and we have to select this button and click on this plus icon and drag it over here to this frame. And here we have this pop-up. Now we have to select some of these options from here. So we will set it as on click, and here instead of navigate to, let's change it to open overlay. And then here we have the option of selecting where it should be displayed. So let's select it, and let's select top center. And then we have the option of closing the pop-up when we click outside the pop-up. So let's turn that on. And then we have the animation. So instead of instant, let's change it to move in. And we want to move it in from the top. So let's select this option right here. So now we can see that it moves in from the top. And then we have some more options over here. So we have this transition curve. So let's select it, and let's select an option from here. Let's just select slow over here. And now when we click on this close button, we need to close this pop-up. So let's select this, and let's click on this plus icon, and let's drag it over here. And we need to change navigate to close overlay. Right now let's close this, and now let's test it out and let's see whether it works. So we have set the starting point over here. You can drag this and add it to any frame you want. I'll just add it to this frame because we want to test it. So let's click on this button called present. Right here we have the smartphone version. Now let's click on this menu button, and here we can see that the menu is being displayed over here. And if I click on this close button, it goes back. So the overlay is working all right. So that's basically how you can add menu animation to your Figma design. And with that, we have completed designing the home page using Figma. Alright, so that's it for this video. I will leave the link of the Figma file in the description. And if you have any doubts, you can ask in the comments below. And if you like this video, please click on the like button and subscribe to this channel to get the latest video updates. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a nice day.